Hi, I'm Nikki Gray and I am the Literacy and Communication Leader at Foreland Fields School in Ramsgate. We are a large district special school. We cater for children who have profound, severe, multiple complex needs, and many of our students have autism as well as their learning needs. We have a nursery on site that takes children from the age of 3 and 4, and we have a sixth one right up to the age of 19. We have recently moved, well fairly recently now, moved into a new building just over 3 years ago, which was designed to meet the needs of the children and was a mega refreshing change and gave us a real boost to put into place the things we've been thinking about for a long time to support the needs of our very special children. Context for our school with speech and language therapy support. At the moment, and for the last few years, we've relied on NHS support only in terms of speech therapy. And to be honest, this has always been far more stretched than we would hoped, but it's got progressively more thinly spread over the past few years, especially as our pupil numbers have gone up and the NHS support available, the hours available has gone down. So more and more we've looked at ways within our school staff, our expertise, to be able to build up, fill those gaps and make things even better. The balance system tools have really helped us to unpick in so many ways what we're really good at. So we know that at the universal level for speech and language, we've got so much in place. It's there's symbols around for transition, there's lots of visual timetables in classes that are consistent, we've got banks of resources available for teachers to use and to adapt, and standard symbols just to help that consistency and that consistency of approach. Every class has got a communication toolkit box, and it has all of the information you would need to make those universal provisions work for your particular needs group. In growing the confidence and expertise, this has been absolutely crucial for our work with the NHS sorts as well, because they've seen that our confidence is there, and it means that their time can be used much more carefully for those children that need really targeted work from a specialist, and we know that we can contact them if we feel we want to refer a child for that reason. From the very start, we've always relied on that NHS support alongside a national curriculum model taught across the whole school. Originally, in our old building, the SALT therapists and other therapists were based at our school in a separate part of the building. The new hub for that was built before we moved to our new site, and all of those therapists relocated to the new hub. So it meant that access wasn't quite as quick and as smooth as maybe we were used to. So at that point we had to start really thinking about how we could build up our own expertise. Big things that have developed really over the last few years is that the leadership and management and support from the leadership for speech, language and communication needs in school has increased hugely, and that understanding of what's important for our children and those children as they go through to adult services is that if they can't communicate, then we can't get any of those other important learning things sort of embedded in, as well as we would hope. So my role in school is really to promote what we do really well, to make sure that the training's there in place. Myself and a colleague are Makaton tutors, so that as a start that makes sure that consistency of signing is available and that accuracy is there, and that people can come and ask you if you need something. We're not relying on external sources for that. We have 2 teachers of the deaf as part of our class, our staff team as well, who look after those students that are part of our cohort that do have hearing impairments or are deaf and may also use their own sign language. Our One of our deputy heads at school has a responsibility for linking with therapists, and he keeps a really thorough look at what's going on. He's in constant conversation with the heads of their services, seeing how we can make things better, seeing how we can get the best possible service for our students, and also identifying when things aren't going quite right. In time for us to do our best and step in and try and make that better. The use of the tools, as I said before, with the balance system has helped us understand what we do well. So we always knew that our universal level was quite good. We always knew that our links with family were pretty good, but maybe not as tight as they could have been for sharing information and offering opportunities for those parents to come in and ask for support. So, for example, we have regular Makaton workshops happening at least 3 or 4 times a year for those parents to come in, and regularly it's one of the best attended courses that we run. Some parents come back every single time, some just like to come to the Christmas workshop just for a little bit of a refresh, but we have over 30 parents come, and that is really significant. We have about 230 children on our roll, but so many of those children coming on transport every day, and the contact and communication with the parents can be we've got to work really hard to make that work. That has been something that we've noticed has carried on past COVID. We formed a lot of stronger links with our parents through communicating on phone, using different apps, using different resources, emails, and that strength is something that we've really kept hold of. A really strong feature that has developed from our joined up working is the development of communication clinics. So 5 times a year we have myself as curriculum lead, as the communication curriculum lead, and a member of our NHS SALT team hold an open morning which teachers can book into for maybe a 5-10 minute slot, and they bring a child to quickly talk about, quick bit of advice. Sometimes they can go over with a few strategies, sometimes we might give them a few pointers to decide whether we need to refer onto speech and language. The children that can be brought to that clinic for advice may be open to the speech and language caseload or may not. All sorts of things. It's also the way that any additional interventions are accessed for students through my time or through part of the wider communication team's time. And we just find that's a really effective way and really efficient way of accessing our speech therapist and asking for their support. Sometimes you don't know what's going to come in the door next, which is always a busy morning, but yeah, amazingly worthwhile, and the impact on students and staff. They just feel supported, and they know that there's that drop in, and they know that will be then followed up within a number of weeks if there's resources need to be put in place for that happens as a result, and happens quite quickly because tends to be from a school-led perspective rather than having to wait for the really tightly stretched NHS support to come back in. We've got really strong links with the Kent CAT team. We've currently got 9 students within school that already have very good devices, but we're constantly looking at, where's the next one? Who else can we have? Because the CAT team have got such an amazing model. We've learned so much from them about how they work together and how they make really effective use of the time and the resources they've got. We've developed over the last little while a specialist intervention room. So the resources are there, ready and raring for some one-to-one work or for small group work. And that's something that we really want to build on in the next couple of years, rather than just having it available when I'm out of class. I'm based in class 3 days a week with severe autistic group, and 1.5 days a week doing the speech and language role, which, never enough. One thing we have really noticed is that as our provision has strengthened and as the NHS staff have recognised that level of commitment and expertise that we've got. More and more, particularly our younger students, are being discharged from the integrated team because we can meet their needs better as staff that know them well, and delivering those programmes and those targets all day, every day. We then, because we have the communication clinics set up, we have an access point that if we feel that those children who have been discharged that we're working with need to be seen, need to be referred to again, we can take them to the clinic and go towards like next steps there and ask the next questions. But it does mean that the speech and language caseload is significantly reduced compared to what it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and that is in line with the manpower they have available at the moment. Important to note as well that more recently we have moved away from doing national curriculum for the majority of our students. We've now got 3 curriculum pathways running in school: an Explorers pathway for our chaps with their most profound needs, a Discoverers pathway for those chaps that are quite classic SLD and often have those communication needs in order to make their wants and needs heard, and tend to have the more significant speech language communication needs for our cohort. And then we have a Pioneers pathway, which is broadly based on national curriculum subjects to meet the needs of our students. Many of the students on that pathway may have been at mainstream when they were younger, and may have been seen by speech and language therapists in mainstream, but now the sorts of things the sorts of issues that were worked on maybe by the mainstream therapists is something that the expectation is it's embedded within our special school curriculum. Sometimes we have stumbling blocks on that. That's something we need to really work on, something that we've identified as part of our identification and need for targeted intervention. There's often some gaps there, particularly with speech sound production for some of those students coming in from mainstream, that doesn't meet the criteria of the NHS integrated team that we work alongside. But we're aware of that, and it's something that we're working with. In terms of other community links we have been working with lots and lots of local nurseries with our nursery team and Makaton tutor there, and making sure that any of our children in our setting, in our nursery, have the same support in their mainstream nursery as well, so that everybody working around that child is trying to use the same techniques. In terms of wider community, we've had some really strong links developing with our local shopping centre. I had the absolute privilege a few years ago of going to teach Santa and his elves to sign, which meant that we could then tell our parents that if you take your children to visit the grotto, Santa can sign with your children, and that made just a huge difference, and really kind of fueled us to look at some stronger links within the community with Asda that's just down the road, Tesco. COVID's got in the way, but it's very much on the back burner and ready to go as soon as they are ready as well. We've got some of our sixth form groups working with local NHS doctors, dentists, firefighters, explaining to them what they need in order to communicate when they may have those times of heightened anxiety where things might not be going quite so well, and that's an amazingly powerful project. In terms of impact for our individual students, we use a video evidence tool called Evidence for Learning, and we're just starting to see now how if we've done a video of a starting point for some children with when we're focusing on a particular communication skill, and then maybe picking up a video 6 months later, a year later, 18 months later, and comparing where that child has got to, that's our really clear impact evidence to show the beginning and the, I don't like to say end point because I think it's always a developing point. It's another little point on that time scale. And in terms of where we are now as a school, we are looking really carefully at how we can expand our SLCN provision. We're looking at all sorts of creative ways of expanding the expertise within the school, so that we can make more valuable use of that limited speech and language time that we can access. So I hope that's been a really helpful overview. Please feel free to contact us if you have any questions, and we'll see where it goes. Thank you. Bye.